What's up, fam? Coming at you to give you my quick review on the Nikon Z7 kit that I was loaned by the guys over at Nikon, facilitated through Looking Glass. So Z7, dude, such a compact, amazing tool from Nikon. Just, you know, so much power packed into a small Nikon. So I'm going to run down the line on some of the features, and then I'll just talk to you a little bit about my experience shooting with this camera over the past week or so. I'll share some images as well, and I shot some video footage with this camera too, which it does a great job doing. So we're talking about a 45 megapixel weather sealed in-body 5-axis stabilization camera, OLED viewfinder, which is super bright and very detailed. The same battery as some of the single lens reflex cameras currently in the Nikon family, like my D750 battery fits right into this, so that's a really nice thing. Switch up though as far as memory goes. So we're talking about an XQD card, single slot for this camera. So you need that if you're shooting on SD cards. Now, it's a faster card. The technology is more like 2020 and moving forward. So it's something to just be aware that you're not running a standard SD card on this. You have a single slot. So you need an XQD card reader as well to transfer your DAT. So it's a very different kind of storage system. But I found it to be great. The cards are very hardy. I like the feel of them. Again, it is a single slot on the side of the chassis here. So, you know, think in terms of storage. Bigger files, obviously, more 4K data, these kinds of things you'll want to keep spare batteries around, as well as XQD cards probably, because it's a mirrorless system. So moving away from single lens reflex, this is Nikon's first full frame mirrorless camera, and it's doing a great job. The ergonomics are very different than a single lens reflex. Here's my 750, for example. The grip, because the body is shallower, because we don't have all that mirror structure in there, the grip is a little bit different, and the roll lay here for these toggles is different too. That's a big roll lay high on the frame versus my finger wants to move for the traditional placement of that thing, which is a little bit lower on the chassis. So it took a little bit of getting used to, but I'm not bummed because overall it's just kind of like a smaller rig. So the form factor on this is kind of the big thing. It's just so much smaller and such a powerful full frame sensor packed into the camera that taking it around and getting really amazing images is super easy to do. Now, another big thing beyond the XQD card is that we are now in a Z mount. So Nikon has deviated from their F mount and moved into a larger, lower flange build for their native glass for this camera setup. Now, native glass is amazing, and I'm shooting with a 50-1.8 and I've got an 85-1.8, and then I've got the 24-70 f4 is what that one is. So that's the kit I was loaned, which is amazing, and thanks again Nikon, that's just so clutch. So again, what I've got on the camera is the 50, here's the 85, still, you know, relatively compact for what it is, and then the 24-70 f4 is another native glass lens that I was playing around with. Shot stills and video on most of these lenses, and a really nice experience overall, and the native glass is cool. But if you just have a killer F-mount lens array, don't fear, there's an adapter. So here I've got my 85-1.4G mounted on the adapter, which then goes right onto that Z mount. So it's small-ish, and when you pair it up with the camera, it's going to extend your lens barrel length a bit, but whatever, I can put, and I've rocked a bunch of my F-mount G glass on the camera, and it operates amazing, and the images that I'm getting are clutch. And while the native lenses are sweet and operate really nice with the system, your F-mount stuff is going to fit, and it's going to run amazing on the camera body. So that's an upshot, and that was something else that I was loaned, so good news, because I was able to kind of like take advantage of the lens set that I have with this camera. So that was a really nice like upshot and bonus. So yeah, just overall, you know, the articulated touchscreen on the back is a really nice feature that I was super fired up on. You know, that was something that I touched on with the D780. I like that advancement a lot, especially for shooting video. It's really nice to have the touchscreen back here. I wired it up to an external mic. I got really nice, you know, sound and the recording quality. So it's doing 4K. and it will do 1080 up to 120 frames per second. I think in the camera you're looking at 8-bit, but it can output over an HDMI 10-bit. This is all video jargon, which I'm not super versed in, but I did shoot with it, some video stuff, and it looked amazing. It was so smooth and great looking. So, like I said, the touchscreen, 9 frames per second, continuous burst shooting mode. Oh, and then your framing is and your focusing is done with 493 points that cover 90% of the scene area for your focusing. So there's just so many points, and the autofocus I felt like worked quite well. I tend to kind of be a person who, you know, moves around with a manual, and there's a joystick toggle on the back of the camera is normally how I manage my, you know, focusing, and a front button push focus acquisition, take my shutter actuation. But shooting video, the autofocus was quiet and smooth. It wasn't super tight, but I put it, you know, in front of some difficult situations. So that's one of the things a lot of people are talking about as far as the downside to this camera is the autofocus system. But for me and the kinds of things that I shot, I felt like it did a great job, and I was not disappointed because I didn't have a super high expectation of it to do something that I don't think it ought to be able to do. So anyway, I kept my expectations in line, and I was very pleased with what the camera did, which is great. So it's a great camera, and if you're a Nikon user shooting digital SLRs and you want big performance, but you just don't want the size, this Z series, and they make a Z6 as well, which is a 24 megapixel. This is the 45 megapixel, the Z7, but it's a kick-ass camera, and I would definitely recommend for folks looking for things that they can pair up with their existing Nikon glass, but really be a cutting-edge performer. This camera's just an amazing camera, and it's worth some time. So I really enjoyed shooting with it again. Thanks for the folks over at Nikon Adapter. Like I said, the 50-1.8, the 85-1.8, and the 24-70 was my bonus pack that I got. Oh, and the XQD card and the XQD card reader. So thanks to everybody that let me partake in this, and I hope my little review was helpful. Not super technical, and again, I did love shooting with the camera in the field. The kit was small, and the images that I was getting were just amazing, and I was super impressed. So check it out if you are looking for a portable full-frame banger. Oh, and then just one last thing, like, so I am shooting with that S1R, and that's a really, you know, like, different kind of tool, but this one really hit a nice cozy warm spot because I've always shot with Nikon, so this was just such a friendly experience from that way. But that Panasonic is great as well, but just a different kind of tool. So anyway, hope that helps everybody. Keep it real. I'll catch up with you later. Bye.